The virtual working environment normalized by the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the paradigm of employee education, pushing most, if not all, forms of employee training to online. Many safety mandates, including social distancing, face covering, personal hygiene practices, travel protocols, and stay-at-home lockdown measures have been enforced by every country around the globe. In March 2020, the United States federal government recommended organizations and schools to move their daily operations and lessons to strictly virtual space, resulting in over three-quarters of the U.S. organizations operating virtually via video conferencing tools and electronic communication. Training programs traditionally held in person were canceled and converted to e-learning or other virtual learning formats. This disruption in the organizational learning and development space has triggered many changes in multiple surrounding environmental layers around the individual, the instructional designer. The changes include increase in workload, job opportunities, shifts in design strategies, new and added technical skills for learning technology systems and infrastructures, and ever-evolving job titles. The purpose of this study is to find out how these changes have impacted the roles and responsibilities of instructional designers, creating online training programs to improve the quality of human capital in the United States. The researcher will first address the problem of the study, introduce the guiding questions, present the conceptual framework, and provide the qualitative research methodology approach. The impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have changed every aspect of our lives, including federal and state policies, social and cultural behaviors, and educational and organizational processes and systems. Due to the globally mandated lockdown measures, many educational institutions and organizations have shifted their operations solely online. This action to prevent and combat the further spread of the virus has forced 70% of the U.S. workforce into working remotely from their homes, thrusting most, if not all, employee education and training programs into the virtual space since March of 2020. This disruption in the employee learning space has caused organizations to increase their investment in learning technology and systems and establish corporate university structures. This new focus has propelled organizations to evaluate the importance of instructional design and development strategies and hire more instructional designers to meet the increasing demands of creating online training programs. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts a 6% growth in demand for instructional coordinator positions from 2019 to 2026, and an 8% growth to digital designers, both faster than average than all other occupations. As of today, there are over 100,000 instructional designer job postings in California on ZipRecruiter.com. However, the majority of listings require little or no experience. Gates Foundation's report estimated only 13% of the 13,000 instructional designers in the post-secondary institutions in the U.S. had degrees in instructional design or education. Some researchers claim there is no established definition or path to becoming an instructional designer. Other researchers also suggest that instructional designers are challenged by the lack of empirical research or documented best practices to better equip the next generation of instructional designers and left unprepared and reluctant to accept the expansion of their role during COVID-19. The following questions will guide the research. In what ways did instructional designers' role change or evolve in the virtual employee learning space of COVID-19? What kind of design challenges did instructional designers face in the virtual learning environment of COVID-19? What are the instructional designers' perceptions on adapting to the new virtual employee learning environment of COVID-19? Even before the pandemic, 43% of the employees find their training ineffective and unengaging after spending 64% of their time training online. In 2019, U.S. organizations spent over $17 billion for training and assigned more than 35% of their employee training programs online. Compared to traditional learning, online learning has more than 50% of dropout rates, and a quarter of online learning learners fail their courses each year. Researchers suggest The improving employee online training programs can impact motivation, engagement, productivity, and retention, and affect overall profits. They also propose organizations to take a targeted approach in their communication plan, quality digital development, educational offerings, and technological resources to maintain and emerge their human resources during the COVID-19 pandemic. They also predict remote working setting will increase and organizations need to provide ongoing support to their employees. Instructional designers helping organizations creating online employee training programs play an essential role in these recommended efforts. Brenner's ecological model best captures the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on the role of instructional designer. The Corona system, the COVID-19, caused emergency policies including legal, social, governmental, and educational structures in the macro system. The drastic system changes trigger the elements in the ecosystem, which are high demands in jobs, an increase in e-learning programs, a booming business in learning technology, and change in instructional design trends. The mesosystem includes a symbiotic relationship between the ecosystem, the industry, the designer, and their immediate surrounding environment, the microsystem. Employee, manager, faculty, and the organization. Finally, the instructional designer is the individual layer of the ecological system, including design styles, experience, and educational background. The study will employ qualitative research methods by interviewing 8 to 10 instructional designers creating employee online learning training programs. The research will apply the narrative inquiry research techniques, conducting interviews and collecting stories from the participants. The researchers then will analyze the data by triangulation, respondent checks, and adequate engagement in data collection. The researcher, a seasoned instructional designer creating employee training program, will conduct interviews with purposeful and industry-related questions to solicit feedback from the participants and elevate the credibility of the research. The many changes of COVID-19 have impacted multiple areas of our lives. The initial shocks and adjustment endured by the participants may be similar to the researcher's own experience during the pandemic. As the researcher is the data collection instrument in qualitative study, the researcher's positionality may have influenced the interview questions and possibly affected the participants' responses. The researcher will implement constant comparative and reflective methods throughout the data collection and analysis phases. By discovering changes and challenges of instruction designer in the virtual employee training space, the research aims to uncover recommendations for instructional designer to combat and manage future challenges in a fast-changing organizational learning environment.